Live with the community from the European Power Platform Conference, this is the June Power Platform Community Call. We are so excited, live here in the room with you all and all around the world. Let's take a look at our agenda. We are going to take the latest updates on the Power Platform. Then we're going to look at some upcoming events in the community, and we're going to attempt our group picture time together, so get ready for that. And then we have three fantastic, amazing all-stars here in the room, live and in living color. Kat is going to talk about cracking the code, demystifying the data outputs in Power Automate. Chris Huntingford is going to go over Dataverse security tips and tricks, and Keith Atherton is going to tell us how to prepare for the Microsoft Power Platform certifications. Now, you may be thinking, I want to be there. I want to be presenting on this call. You absolutely are welcome to do that. We invite everyone to present on this call. All you got to do is request it. You go to aka.ms/community/request/demo, and you are welcome to present on this call. You just fill out the title and description that you would like to talk about, and we will get you scheduled up. No problemo. And don't overthink this, everybody. Don't think it has to be some cancer-curing solution that you're showing. It can be simple. It can be a tip or trick. It can absolutely be something you're passionate about. Someone will find value in it, and so will we. So don't hesitate. And if you want a buddy, we got your back. All you got to do is let us know, and we will pair you up with someone to make sure that you are comfortable and confident. So check it out at aka.ms/community/request/demo. Now, let's get to some news. First things up, Jocelyn with connectors.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope everybody at the EPPC is having a great time. The biggest news that we have in the world of Power Platform connectors is no longer just that we are over 1,000, but last month at Build, we were actually able to announce that M365 Copilot will now be fueled additionally by Power Platform connectors. So Power Platform connectors will be powering other scenarios across Microsoft, aside from just that within the Power Platform. We're super excited to move forward with this. There's still lots of work to be done on how to enable these scenarios, but we're looking forward on having all of those 1,000 plus connectors being able to power other aspects of Microsoft products. Across the overall ecosystem, which is now still Azure Logic Apps, Power Automate, and Power Apps, we are at 1,048 total certified connectors, with even more independent publishers, connectors made by community members like you, than ones made by Microsoft as first party. If you love connectors a lot, just like me, feel free to scan that QR code to join our connector-specific labs call, which is once a month, the second Wednesday of every month. And links will be in the chat for you to figure out how to get started in your connector journey. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. Now, we'll have all the other links that you typically get in the chat by me. I will get those in at the end of the call. Dealing with a solo screen today, so I'm in pain. So just hold on tight for those, and we'll make sure that you have them all. All right, let's talk about some Power Platform samples. There are a plethora of samples, and that means a lot, right, Hugo? He says yes. That means that you can take advantage of all these samples, and you can contribute to these samples. So all you got to do is go to aka.ms/powerplatform-samples to check them out, use them, contribute to them, and enjoy them. And there's one more new area that we have for samples, and that's the Power Platform prompts. So AI has become the biggest thing. I don't know. Have you all heard of AI? Anybody here heard of AI? Nobody? AI? Nobody? Okay. Well, in case you haven't heard of it, there is an opportunity here for you to contribute to and use these Power Platform prompts. April is hosting or leading this along with Daniel Laskowitz. So take advantage for AI Builder, Power Apps, Automate, Virtual Agents. There's more to come in this repo. It's very exciting. Reach out to get more involved. Now, once you have contributed to this community, we want to recognize. This recognition program is here to recognize all the amazing work that you're doing in the community. This is a program powered by Credly. Yep, the same Credly where you get those badges or used to get those badges for certifications. We absolutely want to recognize the work that you're doing, and we're continuing to provide these badges. We are, in fact, upping the number of badges and the opportunities. So definitely, if you haven't registered and opted in yet, please do that. Go to aka.ms/community/recognition, and we will absolutely ensure that we're tracking all the amazing work that you're doing and ensure that you are recognized for it with these badges. And we're going to be upping. There's going to be a hackathon coming up that April is leading. We're going to do some badges for that. So don't hesitate to get involved. Definitely go sign up, opt in. Only need to do it once, and we'll make sure you're well taken care of. All right. Now, there are some shows and events, and April just came in the room. So getting ready to sip some coffee. Would you like to talk about your low-code revolution?
Sure.
She's coming close. You see her walking up.
So I could talk. Yeah, so we had the Low Code Revolution show where we share customer stories and all that great stuff and about how you've been revolutionizing with low code. So if you want to join, you can go to that link there, aka.ms/low code revolution guest. We'd love to have you on the show. And you can check it out at aka.ms/low code revolution show.
Woo! Thank you. And I just told them about the prompts too. Is there anything special you wanted to add in there?
No, just check it out. We have a new landing page for that, so we just launched for it, so you can better browse them. So just give it a check out, and then we'd love to see your samples and your contributions on them.
Awesome. And lots more to come there, everybody. Yes. So definitely get involved. All right. We also have EduCon coming up. So DC just finished. We've got Seattle coming up in August and Chicago in October through November. So definitely check that out. And then we got a lot of other events coming up. We are currently at European Power Platform Conference, as you can see. Commsverse, Dynamic 365 Bootcamp, Collab Days, Microsoft Community Days, all available to you to attend. So definitely take advantage of all these amazing events that are spinning back up. All right, it's time for picture time. So get those fantastic cameras on and let me go over to together mode. There we go. All right, it is showing up there in the screen. All right, everybody, let's wave to the camera. Let everybody know how awesome you are. Looking fantastic. Awesome. It's a little pixelated, but we're protecting your faces, making sure that no one knows who you are for your protection. All right. Conference Wi-Fi. So let's get this back over here. All right, so it is time then for us to get into our amazing demos of the day. So first up is Kat Schneider on cracking the code, demystifying the data outputs in Power Automate. So we're gonna.
All right, so hello everybody.
Hello.
I am Kat Schneider. So Power Platform enthusiast, self-taught coder, programmer, developer. Scientist by nature, I'm just naturally curious, and happen to be a native-ish Floridian. There's like 6 months, sometimes towards the beginning. We don't have time for that today. But I am now a career switcher. I was in business units in government for about 15 years. I am now a Power Platform developer, so I've done the whole career switch situation because of Power Platform. But most recently, I'm Microsoft Business Apps MVP as of this month. Yay. But I love making the impossible possible, or what other people think is impossible to be a possibility. So jumping into Power Automate outputs. So actions within Power Automate, they output data in a whole variety of ways, and usually this is going to be in JSON. And it's JSON, not JSON, in case anybody was wondering. But you've got strings, you have integers, Boolean values, dates, date times, and GUIDs, GUI IDs, however you want to pronounce that. But what they really, truly, mostly come out as are arrays and arrays of objects. So, various action outputs. I've done Power Automate flows that send HTTP requests to SharePoint. There's a whole lot there. I've done it for Power Apps for admins to get apps as an admin, and there's a whole lot in there. But it's JSON, and it's everywhere. So the reason for my presentation, or the little bit of background about this presentation, is someone in the community, another good friend of mine, she had a bookings request that would come in, and she was trying to get custom question responses back out of it. So this right here is just a compose action that took that trigger body and dropped it in there. But we're going to focus on this bit here, which was getting the output values. So her problem was she needed both of the custom question answers that were included in here. Those responses were stored in an array of objects. And she tried creating a variable, then using a for each action, and then setting that variable to these answer values, which just overwrote the value from before. So, solution was use a compose action to generate new JSON. So we've got this compose action here. It's creating a new JSON object that's got a company value and an employee ID value, and it's getting that information out based on this bit here. So we've got trigger outputs, we've got questions, answers, which option, and then the answer. So what all does this mean? So the trigger outputs, it's getting everything from the output of the trigger. And then there's this question mark. And this took me the longest time to figure out, but the question mark just means if it exists. So if it exists, I want to get from the body object the get custom question answers object. And then I wanted to get the individual pieces out of the array. And when it's an array, you have to pick that specific object from the array using the index. So the first object always starts at position 0 and then moves up from there. And then I needed the answer field. That was the key that I needed to get. So all that being said, you stick that in this compose action, and now I've got a JSON object with a company value and an employee ID value. So takeaways from this: question mark, super helpful, but it's not necessary if the object always exists. So this here that I'm showing is the exact same as this. It's just taking that question mark out. If it's always going to be there, question mark, it's not needed. But if there's a slight chance or a possibility that the object is not going to be there, do yourself a favor and put the question mark in there. The / it's a helpful shortcut when accessing an object within another object. This is the same thing. You just take out that slash, but you put that slash in there, and now you don't need an extra 4 or 5 characters. But all key names, they have to be within that single set of quotes within those square brackets. And then selecting an object within an array, it requires you to use the index. You cannot do the / this or the / that when it's an array. You've got to select it with an index. And then just fun fact, I use parse JSON or compose action to get the outputs of any actions that I'm trying to work through. So I'll throw in a parse JSON, I'll throw in a compose to get that out, run the flow, and see what it returns. But the parse JSON, like with this one here, I put in the body from the bookings app. And then to get around the requirement for the schema, I put in 2 curly braces, and that's all that's needed to get that requirement fulfilled. Run the action, and I can get the whole thing to come out. Copy, paste that back into the parse JSON later for the generate from sample, and it works. It just works. So if you are still lost from here, though, fear not, because you can get me out on the interwebs. So that is my presentation.
Woo! All right, so the sun never sets on JSON, right?
Yes, it's
Sun, no sun, no sun.
You're going to joke jail.
Yeah, maybe. That's okay. I got credit.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is the one and only Chris Huntingford. So he's going to take over the.
Are you gonna have to?
Oh yeah. We got to make you presenter.
Sweet.
Let me move this over.
So we're going to do some stuff in Dataverse today. Now, I'm aware some of you might or might not know what this is, but I'll get you through it very shortly.
SharePoint, right?
No, but this is a real database. Anyway, yeah, so my name's Chris. I'm part of the low-code team at a company called ANS. Also, I just wanted to have more badges than everyone else, so like that's what I did. I have a badger badge as well. Literally means nothing. Anyway, so just a quick one. You can read all of the stuff up on the Microsoft security site, so on the Dataverse pages. It's all there, except for the hacky bit at the end I'm going to show you, and probably get into trouble for. Yeah? So just keep me honest on time, please.
You got it.
Thank you, sir. Okie dokes. So I worked with this company probably around a year ago, and there are about 75,000 people in the business, and they have a lot of environments. So I was like, oh man, this is insane. Like, how do we manage all the people accessing this stuff? And they said, Chris, what we want to do is we have about, 40, 50 countries where people are coming from. At the time, Dataverse the maker experience didn't have an environment filter, which was not great. So when you log on as a maker, you get assaulted with what I would kind of call this experience here. Now, imagine you have 75,000 people accessing the maker experience. So this is where this all stemmed from, okay? So anywho, we were like, okay, well, how do we do this? How do we control where people make stuff? And if you know governance and Power Platform, there are only 3 questions you ever need to ask. Who is making stuff? Where are they making stuff? And what are they making? If you can answer those 3 questions, congratulations, you've done governance right, okay? So, first things first is we found this really cool piece of functionality called Groups Teams, brought to you from the same people that made Teams, right? And Groups Teams is actually a really cool set of security that you can use in low code to do some stuff. The second thing we did was we built our own custom environment picker because the maker experience wasn't cutting the mustard for us. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do this today. So first things first, if you understand the kind of security layers in Power Platform, it is not limited to 5. There's lots of stuff that happens in between, but these are kind of like the 5 core things. One of the key things that I always look at is, well, do I need Dataverse or not? And the answer is you always need Dataverse. And I'll tell you why. Because first of all, it is not just a database, it is a governance tool that gives you lots of really good stuff in an environment to do management of the way in which people interact with the environment. Okay. So I was like, cool, Dataverse will work. If I don't have Dataverse, I don't get ALM, I don't get all that good stuff, but also I don't get to control as much of the people who are accessing things who are not. This brings me to a slight quandary, right? We're looking at the Dataverse layers. We know that there's a lot of really good stuff in there, right? We can all agree that you've got ALM, you've got the ability to store data, but also you've got the ability to, again, deeply control security. Okay, so all good and well. Why do I have a picture of a waterfall? Let me explain. It's actually quite simple. When people ask me how Dataverse security works, it is really around, it looks a bit like a waterfall to me. And did you know, whenever you create a Dataverse environment, 2 things happen. The first thing is you get an organizational business unit, and that is the umbrella of the whole business unit, and then you get given a bunch of users. You can either do the security at the environment level using a security group as a core, or you can leave it completely, have everyone in the environment, and then control how they access things through user roles. Everyone happy with that? So unless you really want to assign user roles one by one to a user, which is a pain in the ass, you have to use something called Groups Teams, or the XRM Toolbox plugin app. That works pretty well as well. So the way I see it is that it is kind of like standing on a waterfall. The people at the top can see everything down. The people in the bottom can see straight or down, but they can't see up. And you can control the way in which they interact with data. This model has been in Dataverse for years and years, since I've been around since CRM version 3. So obviously when Microsoft pried Dataverse out of the cold, dry hands of the Dynamics team, we got this. Now, the other cool thing is you can build your Dataverse structures out from a security perspective using these business units. And every time you make a business unit, you get given a team. This is important. The team is effectively the mechanism to house the users, and the business unit is the umbrella that creates the invisible walls between the data. What's also cool is you can have sub-business units as well. Now, in tools like Dynamics, this is really useful, especially when you're dealing with things like sales and customer service, because it gets big, right? And if you're dealing with a global organization, you have to segregate by country, by region, and you can do this using the business units. And then there's this thing called Teams inside Dataverse, and it basically hacks through the whole thing, right? So you can just like whack a team in, file through the whole thing, and be able to interact with data across these different business units. This solves a lot of problems in places like banks, right? Or we have organizations with large sales regions or people in kind of silos. There's always a use case for firing through that data layer. I promise I'll get to the point of why this environment picker thing came up. So we're like, okay, so number one, do we make one giant environment, and do we say, okay, everyone put all your data in there, and then we'll just segregate it through business units, or do we create lots of environments and use the localized data structures in that way? And that's what we did. We had localized environments. We didn't just hammer everything into one Dataverse environment. If you do that, you will create a massive data overhead for yourselves. Okay. So, a couple of other things that came up. There are 3 core roles in Dataverse that you need to care about. There are only 3. The rest of it, I kind of just bolts onto the side. And the 3 roles are your environment maker role, your system customizer role, and your system admin role. And the whole idea is that environment maker is supposed to give makers the ability to make applications, but not straddle the database. Whereas the customizer role bolts onto the bottom of the make role to give you Dataverse access. And then you have the system admin, which is kind of most people in the room, would be my guess. So when you look at the roles, it starts getting really interesting. So the first thing is a couple of gotchas. Default environments every user in the default environment in your business has got an environment maker and a basic user. When you actually open up those roles, the basic user has more rights to Dataverse than the environment maker. Right, so explain that one. So if your entire default environment has got a Dataverse, which it likely will have, because somebody has run an approval flow or filed that database up in there, you've got a problem, because that basically means your basic users are accessing that data structure. Anyway, that's just a by the by. So how does this all work? Well, let me give you a quick peek. Effectively, inside Dataverse, you can pop into your Power Platform Admin Center, select your environments, and you've got all your goodies over here. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's relatively straightforward. So users be users. Users are either added one by one or through AD groups. Okay. The next thing is you've got your business unit structure, and users belong in business units. We can all agree that, right? And the third thing is you've got teams. Now, teams is where I'm really going with this, because business units are cool, but they complicate the hell out of things. So did you know you can create a thing called a groups team, where you can actually connect to an Azure AD group, assign that groups team security roles, and users then are added to that groups team or removed to that groups team from AD. It's a very, very, very cool feature. So effectively, all that you're really doing is if I say create a team, I'm going to give it a name, whatever, it doesn't matter. The business unit you can select from your set of business units, so you can have an entire data structure linking up to AAD security groups and controlling the groups through AAD rather than directly in Dataverse. Praise the Lord, right? So you don't have to worry, you don't have to have the Power Platform admin doing it. You can actually have somebody that's an Azure admin doing it. So I'm just going to pick a random one. Admin, I'm just going to make me, of course, oops. There we are. And the team type, you've got your AAD security group. So all I do is pop it in there, select governance, because I've got an AAD group for governance, and bam. What I'll then do is I'll select my security role. Now, this is where it starts getting super weird. Did you know that of those 3 security roles, there are only 3 security roles that allow users to go to make.powerapps.com and actually see the environments. You cannot see environments if you have a custom role. It will not work. You can only use environment maker, system customizer, and system admin. Here's the next thing. Who controls the security roles? None of you all do, Microsoft do. And what happens if you change the security role? That change will not persist. If Microsoft make an update against that role, it will likely break. So what now? We have a problem. Because if Microsoft control all the security roles and control who sees make.powerapps.com, as admins, we have a bit of an issue. So I found a way around it, of course. So what we did was we said, okay, that's fine. We've got groups teams. Just by the way, to let you know, groups teams is a real thing. Here's the security page with it on. See, groups teams, right? It actually is a real thing, and they named it that. Anyway, so what I did was I thought, okay, I have a bunch of users looking to access make.powerapps.com. They're probably not going to go to the maker experience. What's the best way to do it? So we make a custom role called Chris Environment Maker, and we save it. Now here's the thing. They can't go to the maker experience to see that custom role. And because they have the custom role that I'm controlling that will persist with updates, how do they get access to make.powerapps.com? This is where the interesting bit comes in. We decided that using groups teams, we would have a massive control center in Azure, making sure that those users behave themselves. And then we thought, actually, you know what? If you go into the Center of Excellence starter kit and you look in that model-driven app, what can you get? You get the environment URL. Interesting. So we made a custom environment picker. I'm going to show you a very bad version of this today. All right. And all we did is we said, okie dokes, here's a SharePoint list. And, and you can actually see I've got dev, test, and live with the environment URL. You can obviously obfuscate that if you really want to. Users never have to see that. It's really easy to do. And you can do your 3 screener, create an app, right? Bam. Just going to give it a random name. Cool. And what will happen, I'm going to do what they do in those baking shows. You know when they put they marinate a chicken, put it in the oven, in 1 second they take it out? Yeah, watch this. Boom. Right. There it is. So this is a custom environment picker. You can see that I'm sorting by country. The NC, this one's for you, buddy. So there we go. I've filtered by my country for Finland. I just fire it up and launch the environment. Done deal. I never have to go to make.powerapps.com to select an environment again. I can use my custom picker. And that worked super well. Obviously, you can make it a lot more sexy. And hopefully, we'll have a couple more filters on here. And what I'd done is I was actually looking at the user's region, because in Azure Active Directory, you can use the connector, look at where they're coming from, and you can filter the environments even before they've logged in. So they literally never have to go here. And that, folks, is the gloriousness of groups, teams, and custom environment pickers. Now, the one thing to head, just as a heads up, if you take the approach, just be careful. You risk business unit Armageddon, and you also risk Azure AD group Armageddon. Okay, it's a great way of managing people in the business, but also it's going to happen anywhere, right? People are going to be accessing either directly through Dataverse, so you can control the role there, or why not just put it on the backs of our Azure friends to manage in AD. So that's that, folks. I hope that was fun. Thank you very much. And not a real database.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Give us just a minute to reset the stage, everybody. And we will call Keith up. All right. Let's invite and give a warm welcome to Keith Atherton on how to prepare for Microsoft Power Platform certifications.
Woo! Thank you. Okay, thanks, Chris. Thanks, Kat, for great presentations. That's going to be a tough one to follow. So yeah, my name's Keith Atherton. I've been a developer for over 20 years. Also recently announced as an MVP. And also a Power Platform community super user.
Yeah.
See plenty in the room. And I get up to other shenanigans as well. But
we have to mark this as a solution at the end.
See me after. But today we'll go through some tips and tricks on Power Platform certifications. Just a few things that I've picked up along the way that I'd like to share with everyone. So first up, what are certifications? So when we see all these cool blue badges, the current certifications are role-based. So if you want to be an app maker, solution architect, or whatever the role may be, it's designed around that rather than the products themselves that you use. And when you do see the cool blue badges, we've got some there at the top right. So with the fundamentals, this is more of a good starting point about understanding the concepts, and they don't expire. With associate and expert level, these are a bit more hands-on. They do have a 1-year expiry, and we'll cover renewals in a moment as well. And there's some specialty ones as well. So niche things like Cosmos DB and many other things as well. You can actually drill down to quite a specific level with those. And talking of cool badges, you've come to the right place, because this community recognition program also has its own cool badges that you can earn. So if you're a blog author, or you get involved with sharing is caring, which is super awesome, and there's going to be dates coming up for that, I know, or you're a community call presenter like we're doing right now, there are badges available. I should say as well, with all these links as well, no need to make notes, because we'll be sharing the links after the session. So when I started with certifications, I must admit, I was a bit overwhelmed because there's a big choice. I didn't really know where to begin. I didn't know many people who'd taken them either. But one thing that was really useful was the certifications chart. So we can see all of the platforms there. We've got Power Platform, of course, as well as Dynamics, Azure, and the other ones there. And on the right-hand side, we've got a zoom in of the Power Platform ones available. So we do have the fundamentals, and then there's 5 associates and 1 expert level at the moment. Another thing that works well as a companion with this is the training and certification guide as well. So if you're aiming for a certain role, dealing with solutions, architecting them, or just getting started, this does give you a bit of a roadmap and direction where to go with them. Now, everyone's reasons for taking certifications will be personal to them. There's a good article on Microsoft Learn with some statistics, improving your skills or getting that next job perhaps. But everyone's got their own reasons for doing this. For me, initially, it was to get a role where I was actually going to be using these skills. I didn't just want to learn for the sake of it. Now, to get the certification, it might be 1 or more exams. And when you go ahead and book these, you've got 2 options. You can either take them at a test center, which is my preferred option. It just gets me in exam mode when I'm there. But you can take it at home as well as an online proctored exam. So there's a couple of options, whatever works best for you. The time you get for an exam can vary, depends. Is it fundamentals, associate, expert? If there's labs involved as well, you might have some performance-based testing where you do some labs, and you get a bit extra time at the seat as well for reading the NDA at the start, leaving feedback on questions at the end if you need to do that too. So when you do take an exam, you get your results pretty quickly. In my experience, you do get your results there. All the technical exams have got 1,000 points, and you do need to get 700 or more to pass. And the useful thing is you get a bit of a rough breakdown of the different skills measured they're looking for. So if you, let's say, unfortunately did fail it, you know maybe where the weaker areas are that you can then focus on for your retake. If you're lucky enough to pass an exam and get a certificate, you do get an email with instructions on how to get that badge. And at the moment, but not for much longer, you can share it on the Credly platform as well. So this is where you can put it there, share it on social media. I should say as well that this Microsoft certification partnership with Credly is ending this month. So after the end of this month, they won't be going up there anymore. Any badges that you currently have there will stay up there for a period of time. But also the community recognition program will keep posting badges up to the Credly platform going forward. If you don't pass the exam, you know what, it's not the end of the world. You can just go ahead, do a bit more study, again, focus on the areas that you need to, do a retake, book the exam again. So when you do have something that needs renewed, again, the associate level upwards as well, renewal these days is a bit more straightforward. You can do it for free online at home. It was a bit different previously. You had to take the full exam all over again, get another 2 years validation on that certification. But these days it's a bit more straightforward. It's a lot shorter assessment to do as well. And you can take it up to 6 months before the expiry date. Okay, next up, let's look at some learning resources. And number one for me is always Microsoft Learn. This has sort of improved a lot in the last few years, really tailored quite closely to the exams themselves. And it's broken down into various modules, and you get trophies and badges and things like that. And it's free, and it's just super awesome. And included on there as well, we've got some skills measured. So this is what they'll be looking for in the exam. So these bullet points we've got right here is for the Power Platform fundamentals. You've got a breakdown of the percentage that they make up of the exam. But when you go on the skills measured, there's a bit more detail of what they're looking for as well. You know, the kind of things they'll be asking for in the exam. So it's really useful. Another great option is Microsoft Virtual Training Days. These are webinars. You can book the date and time for the ones available and actually see like a pre-recorded video by an expert trainer. And if you're new to exams as well, the exam sandbox is really useful. This will show you the UI that you'll actually see in the exam as well. So it's useful if you've never done one before, you just want to be familiar with what the progress bar looks like, the kind of the build lists and multiple choice kind of options that you get. Another fairly recent option is Exam Readiness Zone. These are plenty of videos on exams in general, as well as exams specifically as well, and it keeps getting added to as well. Another thing is some exam sample questions. So this is typically 20 multiple choice questions. They give you some options, they show you the correct one, but also links where you can learn more about them as well. So it's almost kind of like a free short practice test before you take the final thing. Along the similar lines as well is practice assessments. Power Platform has got plenty available now. They keep adding to these. And this is where you take it throughout the UI. You submit your answer, it tells you if you're correct or not. And again, there's a link where you can go and learn more if you need to. So there's also plenty of learning material online. YouTube's got a lot of great material out there, some really good instructors. Books, there's plenty of books. I would say with books and anything else as well, just bear in mind how up-to-date the material is. If your exam has been updated 3 months ago, but you're studying from a book that was published 5 years ago, it's worth considering how up-to-date that information is. Udemy's got plenty of great courses. You tend to pay per course. You keep it for the lifetime. Pluralsight's got some really good options as well, and pro tip as well with the premium options, some of them have got exam prep courses with practice tests. So if that's why you're on Pluralsight, it may be worth the extra money. LinkedIn Learning has got some great courses too. Full disclosure, I'm a LinkedIn Learning instructor myself. But I was a fan and a subscriber for years before becoming an instructor with them as well. They've got some great courses. And if you work in partner land, like I do, Microsoft Partner University is another great set of videos tailored per the exams. Again, yours may be available, could be really useful. And maybe a bit more high-cost option is going with a learning partner, which is typically a third-party training organisation. They'll have an instructor on hand, so you can ask questions, you can drill a bit deeper into areas if you need to. Depends on your budget or your company's budget. Microsoft also have official practice tests themselves, so there's plenty of options there. There are unofficial practice tests available. They may vary in quality, I will say. It's the politest way I can put that one. And what? Yeah. Yes. And what we'll do is we'll look briefly at some discounts. Again, I know this is going to be a bit of a speed run, but we can share the links afterwards. So there's things like 30 days to learn it, where you can take a challenge of going through some Microsoft Learn modules. And if you do it within 30 days, you can get a 50% exam voucher. The Microsoft Build Cloud Skills Challenge, which unfortunately has just ended, but seems to come around quite often. Again, you get several challenges available. In this case, if you complete all the modules by the deadline, you do get a free exam voucher. And also worth checking with your employer, you know, do they provide support like money towards online training, towards the exam costs? Many of us are quite busy, so it could be the time during work hours to study, or if you're on the bench as well. So bear in mind, if you put the case together, there are benefits for your employer. They might be working towards becoming a Microsoft partner, or they just want trained, enthusiastic employees. Who knows? We'll finish up with some study tips very briefly. And first up is managing exam stress. It's perfectly normal, affects everyone differently, but looking after your mental health and well-being is critical. So, you know, there's plenty of support out there, plenty of people you can speak to, plenty of guidance online as well. So it's worth putting that first, I would say. We've gone through ways of preparing, so there's lots of ways we can study, but also you can spin up a free dev environment. You could go and have a play with some of these features, you know, get yourself as prepared as you need to for the exam. And if you are prepared, then be confident, right? You know, maybe not overconfident like that, but, you know, if you've done all you can, you're ready for this exam, then don't doubt yourself, just go for it. Another thing is reading the question properly. Yeah, I don't find any of these exams tricksy in any way, but it may be worded, you know, what service would you not use in this example? So it's worth just taking the time, don't feel rushed. And talking of not feeling rushed as well, use all the available time. You know, in some cases you can go back and review questions. So if you've got some time at the end and you can do that and you feel that's worthwhile, it's worth considering. Also, don't skip any questions. You don't get penalised for any wrong answers. So your best chance of success is to answer everything, even if it's an educated guess. And finally, one that works well for me, it's different for everyone, is when I see the question, I try and think of the answer before I see the options. Otherwise, I might get a bit biased. So hypothetically, if I was asked, Hugo used to have a different job, what was it? Now, I know something about food or some, I don't know, something rings a bell.
I know.
Do you know it? Do you know it? Well, let's see the options then. So did Hugo used to be a stuntman?
He's still a stuntman.
Okay, yeah. Did Hugo used to be a movie star?
Oh,
I could see that.
Could be, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, it's possible. Did Hugo used to be a chef?
No, never.
Right, okay.
I don't think that's ever come up.
Never been mentioned. Okay, right. Or an American football player. You know, I think it's chef. And if you did too, you'd be correct. So again, bit of a speed run. So hit me up on LinkedIn or Twitter. Always happy to help if you've got any questions at all. But apart from that, thank you for your time.
All right, everybody, that was fantastic. So lots of information there. Again, if you did not get all those links, we will absolutely add them to the chat. Don't worry about that after the call. But let's wrap this call up. So there are some resources. If you would like to have continued conversations with all of our presenters today, we have a dedicated page for each of them on the Power Apps forum site. So utilizing these URLs and/or the QR codes, you can go let them know any questions you've got, let them know how awesome they did, just tell them they're fantastic.
Yeah, that's
All right.
all fantastic.
Yeah, everybody's fantastic. So thank you. There are lots more resources. You can join the community. You can check out the videos, samples, communities for Power Apps, Power Platform, Power Automate, Power Pages, Power Virtual Agents, all the power, all the time, all available 24/7. Now, the community calls are still up and running for all of our other platforms. We've got the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Weekly. That is going on a summer break. The last one is next Tuesday, but that is only Microsoft speakers. So it's a fantastic way to get involved and hear from the product managers and program managers that we all know and love. We've got our Power Platform, which you're all in now. And of course, our sibling Microsoft 365 and Power Platform development, along with Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework. Now, we also would love to get some feedback. So please, please, please go to this feedback form, ak.ms/community/call/feedback, and let us know how you're liking the calls. It helps us make sure that we can get these calls always up and running and added to more valuable content. The recording will be available within 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 PNP YouTube channel. You can get that at ak.ms/community/videos. If you are not a Microsoft employee, do not try to download it. It will just end in tears, sadness, blue screens of death. It won't be good. But we will have it available. If you follow us on Twitter, you will know as soon as it drops. And you can subscribe to the YouTube accounts and be alerted as soon as it's available. The next call, July 19th, 2023, 1 month from today, the third Wednesday of every month, we will be here for you at 8 a.m. Pacific. Make sure you access that at ak.ms/community. ak.ms/Power Platform Community Call, and you can see everything else at ak.ms/Power Platform/Community Calls. Thanks everybody for joining today, and thank you all for being in the room. Woo!